See, when you're brazen, you get a hook.
Do you think you'll shake all these people's hands and get on the way out? Do I still have all my money?
Good morning and welcome to Earth Day at the C&O Canal. My name is Anthony Hildebrandt. I'm an Eagle Scout from Troop 241 of the National Capital Area Council. 2 years ago, for my Eagle Scout project, my troop and I spent over 200 hours rebuilding an access path on Lock 6 of this canal. Today, I'm wearing a patch which represents the entire 184.5 miles of the canal towpath, which my family and I have ridden on our bicycles. We all share this treasure which needs our help today. As we gather today, we should keep in our minds and in our hearts the service and dedication of all those who have made this great national park what it is today. Since this winter's flood, there have been many efforts by many volunteers to return this park to what it once was. Even with all the dedication and time spent selflessly on this canal, the work is far from finished. Volunteer service is the most valuable way to pay the debt we owe to the earth for all that we have taken from it. Not only does this beautiful park need help from volunteers, but every park needs you. As President Clinton said earlier this year, it will not be a miracle that preserves America's environment and the global environment. It will be the result of thousands and thousands of people, ultimately millions of people, devoting themselves to a common cause. It is my pleasure on this truly wonderful Earth Day to introduce to you a fellow scout, Ashley King.
Good morning. My name is Ashley King, and I was just recently elected as a girl representative to the Board of Directors for the Girl Scout Council of the nation's capital. I'd like to ask you, what does a person think of when he or she thinks of the out of doors? Thousands of Americans picture sunrises and skylines, stars that are not obscured by the light of a nearby shopping mall, and of a moose and her calf drinking at the edge of a mist-covered lake. I consider myself to be a member of that group of people, a member of a group who knows there is a serenity and joy one finds in nature that cannot be found in any other environment. It cannot be simulated or manufactured. It comes from being surrounded by life in its most elemental form. With the population growing and cities expanding so rapidly, there are fewer and fewer places where a person can go to be surrounded by nature. Our country's national parks are among those few places. They provide recreation for millions of Americans every year, and they also provide a refuge for wildlife whose habitats are being destroyed by developers. The national parks are also part of our heritage, and they make us uniquely American. There is no Grand Canyon in Europe, nor is there a redwood forest in Australia. If we do not protect and respect these parks, they will disappear, and there will be no way to bring them back. As Carl Sagan wrote, "We are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it's forever." But it is not forever. We have a responsibility to all Americans who come after us to preserve our national history. And now, it's my honor to present the Vice President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Good job. Good job. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ashley. And thank you, Anthony. Ashley King and Anthony Hildebrandt are doing wonderful work for the environment. And I hope there's a special merit badge for helping the President of the United States on Earth Day. Well, I don't know, but y'all, if you have any more room for merit badges, thank you for helping us. I would like to, on behalf of the President, acknowledge some of the distinguished guests who are here. Senator Dale Bumpers, Representative Nancy Pelosi, Representative Neil Abercrombie, Representative Sam Farr, Representative George Miller, Representative Connie Morella, whose district we're in, Representative Bill Richardson, Representative David Skaggs, Representative Lynn Woolsey, Representative Carlos Romero Barcelo, and if I've left anyone out, it's not intentional. To the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Carol Browner, to the Chair of the Council on Environmental Quality, Katie McGinty, and to someone who is not here because he is launching an important environmental initiative on behalf of the President in New York State, the Sterling Forest, the Secretary of the Interior, Bruce Babbitt. And I want to say a special word about Bruce Babbitt. For the last week, Bruce Babbitt has hiked 60 miles of the C&O Canal and has been out here hands-on, working, helping to restore it. And he and all of his people at the Department of the Interior deserve tremendous praise and credit for responding immediately to the circumstances of this C&O Canal. And we want to thank Bruce Babbitt. We're going to be with him a little bit later today on Earth Day. And I want to acknowledge George Frampton, the Assistant Secretary of Interior for Fish, Wildlife, and National Parks, and Roger Kennedy, Director of the National Park Service. And we appreciate you, Roger. And on behalf of the President, I want to say in Roger's presence how much we appreciate Doug Ferris, the Superintendent of the C&O Canal National Historical Park. And Doug's wife and daughter are here also. Wife and son are here, I believe. Anyway, thank you very much. And may I acknowledge Bill Howard, the President of the National Wildlife Federation, Paul Hansen with the Isaac Walton League, Jim Maddie with the National Parks Foundation, Paul Pritchard, National Parks and Conservation Association, Jeff Barnard, the Grand Canyon Trust, and Randy O'Brien of the Wilderness Society, and other leaders of environmental NGO groups here today. Thank you for your work on a regular, ongoing basis. Well, it's Earth Day, and I should also acknowledge these eagles that have been present here for the, do you see them up there? A symbol of our nation and a symbol of the bipartisan commitment Americans have to continue the work of restoring our environment. Every year for the last quarter century, Americans throughout our land have rolled up their sleeves and joined hands to commemorate Earth Day. Today, that remarkable tradition continues, from the Northwest states to Northwest D.C., from the Great Plains to here in Great Falls. The American community is honoring our natural environment and pledging that future generations will inherit a cleaner, safer, healthier world. President Clinton and I have just spent some time working alongside a group of young people who are working to clean up this canal after a terrible flood. They're doing great work, and I want to cite the ones we were working with and all the others who have been working to clean up the canal. Would you all stand? We want to thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. But the true contribution of these young people is not only what they're doing this spring day, but what they remind us about all of our days on this planet. Through their eloquent example, these young people remind us that our physical world doesn't really belong to any of us because we are all merely stewards. In virtually every one of the major religious traditions, we are taught the lesson, and certainly in the tradition of which the President and I are part, we are taught that the earth is the Lord's, and we are charged with taking good care of it. And when the history of our times is written, we will be measured by how we fulfilled the obligations of this stewardship. Were we careless observers who thought that someone else would take responsibility? Or were we careful guardians whose abiding mission was to ensure that those who followed would inherit a world as beautiful as the one left to us? The young men and women gathered here understand this stewardship ideal and obligation. And through their actions on this Earth Day, they are forging a model for every citizen. One of the founders of Earth Day, the great Senator Gaylord Nelson, who stood by the President, I believe it was last year at Earth Day when he joined us for an event, Gaylord Nelson once said, "Don't ever forget, if you want to move the nation to make hard decisions on political issues, the grassroots is the source of power. With it, you can do anything. Without it, you can't do anything." Well, he's right. But what Senator Nelson did not say is that when grassroots power is combined with dedicated and visionary leadership at the highest levels, the results can change the world. And will. And I hope you all have noticed, I'm confident that you have. I certainly have noticed and noted with pride the fact that in virtually every speech, in virtually every statement of our nation's priorities, and in every deed as well as word, our President has been putting the environment at the top of the list and has been providing that kind of leadership, a true champion of the environment. Not just on Earth Day, but every day. A true champion of the environment, a man who has made protecting our natural world a centerpiece of his presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, on Earth Day, please welcome President.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here today and for the work that you do. I want to thank the Vice President for being the constant conscience of our administration and of the national debate on the environment. I thank Anthony Hildebrandt and Ashley King for the example they are setting for the young people of America. I want to thank these young folks with the Montgomery County Conservation Corps and the others who have volunteered to work in this park. I want to say a special word of thanks to the employees of the National Park Service all over this country and here. They do a magnificent job for America. I want to thank Carol Browner, our EPA administrator, and Katie McGinney, who represents the nation's environmental concerns in the Environmental Council in the White House. And I want to thank Secretary Babbitt, who can't be here because he can't be in more than one place at once. Even Bruce Babbitt can't do that. And as the Vice President said, he's at the Sterling Forest event this morning representing us. I want to thank the members of Congress who are here for their fidelity to the nation's environment and their willingness to stand and be counted in some pretty difficult moments over the last year or so. They have helped us to continue our commitment and to protect this country's natural resources. And I want you to know that I never appreciated them more than I have in the last year or so when they've been in some of the difficult challenges they've been in. And I thank them all, these who are here and their counterparts throughout the country. You know, I just came back, literally just came back from a remarkable journey all around the world. I flew from here to Alaska and refueled, and then I went to Korea and Japan and on to St. Petersburg and Moscow. And I was thinking, standing here today, I saw some of the most magnificent man-made creations anywhere in the world. The Imperial Palace in Tokyo, the great Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. The entire Kremlin has just been redone and restored to its historical grandeur. but none of it is any more beautiful than this wonderful nature that God has given us right here in this national park. And not everybody can travel to see the great palaces of the world. Even the great art galleries of the world are beyond the reach of many of our fellow citizens, but everybody can come to this park without regard to their income, their station in life, what their other resources are. This belongs to all the American people, and we have to dedicate ourselves to making sure that as long as there is an America, there will be a national park system with these treasures there for every single citizen of this country. We've done a lot of work since I became president to try to improve our national parks and to preserve them. We're dramatically cutting back on noise from aircraft flights over the Grand Canyon and the Rocky Mountain parks and other treasures. We're moving, I say as I hear the plane, to restore a natural quiet in our parks. We're expanding the Point Reyes National Seashore in California, where Hillary and I spent our second wedding anniversary, by 38,000 acres. We're calling on Congress to pass legislation to designate new wilderness areas and purchase the Sterling Forest in the New York-New Jersey border. And I'm directing the Park Service to take more than a dozen other steps to make visiting the parks more pleasurable for America's families and for our guests from all around the world. Our duty is to pass on to future generations these treasures that God has given to us. Remember, it was a great Republican president, Theodore Roosevelt, who set our nation on the path of conservation. In 1908, he said, "Any right-thinking parent earnestly desires and strives to leave a child both an untarnished name and a reasonable equipment for the struggle of life. So this nation as a whole should earnestly desire and struggle to leave to the next generation the national honor unstained and the national resources unexhausted." It sounded good in 1908, and it's even more important as we stand on the edge of a new century. Let me say that I consider that I was very lucky as a child to have the privilege of being raised in a national park. My hometown is the only city in America that actually contains a national park, Hot Springs National Park. And I grew up in a state where half of the land, more than half the land, was covered by forests. I took for granted things that many children in our cities never ever see. And frankly, I had to grow up a little before I realized that none of that could be taken for granted. And a lot of people along the way had a big influence on me. The most recent, of course, is the Vice President. But since he's here today, I want to thank my senior senator, Dale Bumpers, who has been one of the most courageous conservationists and environmentalists for the last 25 years in America. Thank you. He taught me by the power of example that governors have a responsibility to the environment as well. And so I say to all of you, there's something for each of us to do. But the remarkable resurgence in support for clean air, for clean water, for a safe environment in our urban areas as well as our rural areas, for standing up for our national parks, that has not come from those of us in public life. Fundamentally, it has come from those of you who are the citizens who live in our neighborhoods and walk our streets and climb our mountains and walk our trails day in and day out. You have given America back its soul, its conscience, and its commitment on the environment, and don't ever give up your responsibility for doing that. So on this Earth Day, as we stand beneath the eagles in this wonderful treasure that we have been given, let us vow that there is more to do. None of our children should have to live near a toxic waste dump or eat food poisoned by pesticides. Our grandchildren should not have to live in a world stripped of its natural beauty. we can and we must protect the environment while advancing the prosperity of the American people and people throughout the world. When it comes to protecting the environment, we can't turn back, we have to go forward, and it has to become a part of our every decision as a people. If we make that commitment and stick to it, then America will have a bright future indeed. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Oh, I don't mind, as long as we get it. NBC local. Gotcha. Are you okay?